Charlie Kirk's parents warned him about Erika. It's all coming out now. The internet is shaking. Comment sections are exploding. And everyone is asking the same question: what did Charlie Kirk's parents see that the rest of the world didn't? Why did whispers and uneasy glances follow Erika long before the cameras ever caught on? And why are old clips, old photos, and old statements suddenly looking different? This story isn't simple. It's layered, emotional. And now, it's resurfacing with new intensity as online investigators dig deeper than ever before. So stay with me, because we are about to walk through everything, carefully, clearly, and without jumping to conclusions. Take 1 second, hit like, because it helps this message reach more people. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. And if you're new here, subscribe right now. The conversation around Charlie Kirk and his wife Erika has surged back into the public spotlight, gaining momentum across TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, and discussion forums. What began as a personal tragedy is now evolving into one of the most talked about online storylines of the moment. Clips, speeches, and photographs from the past are being revisited, analyzed, and interpreted through a new emotional lens. But the key element driving the current wave of attention is not new evidence, it's public perception shifting over time. People are now looking back at small moments that once seemed ordinary and wondering whether they carried meaning that was overlooked at the time. A raised eyebrow. A subtle distance in a group photo. A delayed smile. The internet thrives on patterns, and right now, users are convinced they are finding them everywhere. But it is crucial to clarify that these observations are rooted in public speculation, not confirmed reports. Still, the renewed interest has sparked a larger question that refuses to fade: was everything as harmonious behind the scenes as it appeared in public? This question sets the stage for the discussion that follows, particularly the claims circulating about Charlie Kirk's parents and their early concerns. Among the most widely discussed claims circulating online is the idea that Charlie Kirk's parents may have had early reservations about Erika. These discussions are based on anonymous accounts, commentary from people claiming to know the family, and interpretations of past public appearances, none of which have been confirmed by verified sources. However, the narrative has taken on a life of its own in public discourse, shaping how many viewers now interpret the couple's history. According to the ongoing online conversation, some users suggest that Charlie's parents may have felt something was off from the very beginning, not in an obvious or dramatic way, but in subtle interactions that only close family members might notice. These claims describe a quiet tension rather than open conflict, the kind that might be overlooked in the glow of a newly formed relationship. What amplified this theory even further was the resurfacing of a particular public event clip, one that viewers are now pausing, zooming, replaying, and analyzing in detail. This footage, regardless of anyone's interpretation, has become a central piece of online discussion, acting as what many are calling the moment everything starts to make sense. The clip at the center of the current conversation comes from the wedding ceremony itself, specifically, the moment when the vows were exchanged. On the surface, the video appears like any traditional wedding highlight: smiles, applause, and emotional glances. Yet it has now become a focal point of online reinterpretation. Viewers are examining micro-expressions, posture, tone, and pauses, searching for hidden meaning. Some users point out how Charlie's parents looked during this moment, focusing on brief eye contact and subtle facial reactions. Others claim the atmosphere feels slightly tense beneath the outward celebration. However, it is essential to emphasize that none of these interpretations are grounded in verified statements from the family. These are purely observations made by viewers revisiting the footage with hindsight. This re-examination reflects a broader phenomenon: how emotional context changes after a dramatic shift in public narrative. A moment once seen as joyful may now be reinterpreted through sadness or suspicion simply because the story surrounding it has changed. The clip itself hasn't changed, only the meaning assigned to it by viewers. This shift in perception is driving the next phase of conversation, particularly regarding how public image can diverge from private reality. The renewed attention has led many people to discuss the broader dynamic of public relationships, especially when one partner holds a highly visible role. Charlie Kirk's public identity as a political figure has always been central to how the couple was perceived. The public saw polished photos, confident stage appearances, and unified messaging. But as conversations online grow, people are now questioning whether the private emotional reality matched the public representation. This does not imply wrongdoing or hidden conflict. Instead, it highlights how image management often shapes what the public believes to be true. Many online commentators are now suggesting that when someone lives in the public eye, the pressure to present stability can become overwhelming. Small issues that might be manageable for ordinary couples can be amplified under scrutiny, creating emotional distance or unspoken strain. Whether or not this was the case here remains unknown, but the discussion reflects a broader cultural realization: appearances can be powerful, persuasive, and sometimes misleading. When discussions online shift toward Erika, the tone becomes more complex. Much of what is known publicly comes from her social presence, speeches, and appearances supporting Charlie's work. Viewers describe her as composed, articulate, and supportive in public settings. Yet as the narrative has resurfaced, many are now asking how she may have experienced the pressure of aligning her identity with someone already in a national spotlight. For many, stepping into such a visible role requires adapting quickly, learning how to manage criticism, expectations, and a constant sense of being observed. Online conversations suggest that Erika may have faced the unique tension of balancing her own individuality with the image of being part of a public couple. Some users highlight how partners of high-profile figures often feel the unspoken demand to maintain unity, no matter what challenges exist behind the scenes. Others discuss how emotional needs can become muted when one partner's public mission takes priority. None of these points confirm anything about the couple privately, they simply reflect broader patterns observed in high-visibility relationships. One of the strongest elements fueling ongoing discussion is the notable absence of detailed public statements regarding the deeper emotional context of the situation. Observers often interpret silence in different ways: some see it as dignity, others see it as avoidance, and some believe it may indicate unresolved complexity. Silence, especially in the public sphere, can be a powerful communicator. It leaves space for speculation, reinterpretation, and emotional projection. Online communities are now analyzing not only what has been said, but what has not been addressed. For many, silence creates room for unanswered questions to echo louder. In situations involving public figures, silence can also serve as protection, preserving privacy, shielding family members, or preventing narratives from spiraling further. It may reflect care rather than concealment. The absence of clear statements has allowed the story to become an open canvas for interpretation. Each observer fills the gaps with their own assumptions, beliefs, and emotional responses. And once the public begins constructing its own version of events, those interpretations can become difficult to separate from reality. The question many viewers are now exploring is when the emotional tone of the relationship may have changed. Again, this is built entirely on public interpretation, not confirmed statements. But online discussions often point to moments where the couple's interactions appeared more restrained than before. People reference event photos where the warmth seems more formal, or interviews where smiles look measured rather than spontaneous. Whether these observations hold truth is unknown, yet the perception itself has become a central part of the narrative. The shift being discussed is not a dramatic turning point, but a gradual emotional cooling that viewers believe they can now detect in retrospect. This idea has gained traction because human relationships often change quietly, through subtle gestures rather than visible breaks. Users highlight how emotional distance can form when individual priorities diverge or when external pressures intensify. This leads to a deeper reflection: relationships in the public eye face pressures that most people will never experience. Constant travel, ongoing scrutiny, and high-stakes responsibilities can reshape connection over time. The narrative being built online suggests that the couple may have been navigating these pressures long before the public noticed. Public reaction has become increasingly divided. Some people express empathy, emphasizing that relationships are complex and that private struggles should not be turned into spectacle. They argue that it is deeply human for a couple to experience change, strain, or emotional distance, and that such experiences should be met with understanding rather than judgment. This group stresses the importance of respecting boundaries, especially when grief or personal hardship is involved. On the other hand, there are online communities actively dissecting every available detail. Their conversations are driven by curiosity, emotional investment, or a desire to make sense of the narrative arc they believe they see. For them, the story feels unfinished, like there is still something beneath the surface waiting to be understood. This divide has turned the situation into a broader conversation about how quickly private lives become public property in the digital age. It raises the question of how much the public is entitled to know and how much should remain protected, regardless of fame or influence. Despite the extensive online discussion, the central truth remains that much of this situation is private and undisclosed. The public only sees fragments, photos, speeches, and appearances that capture moments but not the full emotional context behind them. The internal conversations, the personal decisions, the feelings that shape the relationship from the inside, none of these are publicly documented. Because of that, any narrative built from the outside will always be incomplete. This uncertainty is what continues to fuel the conversation. People are naturally drawn to unanswered questions. They interpret silence as meaning, and they search for signs where none may exist. Online speculation often tries to create a linear story, beginning, conflict, turning point, but real relationships rarely unfold in such clear structure. There may have been joy alongside difficulty, closeness alongside distance, and love that existed even if it later transformed. Without direct statements from those involved, the public cannot determine what was felt, what was understood, or how decisions were made. As the public continues discussing the situation, one theme is becoming more prominent: the importance of allowing space for healing, privacy, and reflection. Regardless of speculation, interpretations, or emotional reactions online, the individuals at the center of this narrative are real people navigating personal experiences that carry weight far beyond what the public sees. Moving forward means recognizing that their path does not need to be explained to or validated by outside observers. For those following the story, the most meaningful takeaway may be the broader reflection on how relationships evolve under public pressure. The discussions reveal how image, expectation, and emotional complexity interact in ways that are rarely visible from the outside. Instead of focusing on analyzing past moments, the conversation can shift toward understanding the human side, how people cope, recover, and rebuild after major emotional events. The narrative does not need a final explanation to feel complete. Some chapters in life close quietly, without public resolution. And sometimes, the most respectful response is to let time move the story forward, without forcing an ending. Make sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful, thought-provoking breakdowns. Your support helps these information reach more people and keeps the conversation going.